Pints with Jack, Season 3, Episode 10.
Please patronize us. That was clever, right? That took me a while to think of.
Good morning. Welcome to Pints with Jack, a podcast where two enthusiastic C.S. Lewis amateurs get together, share a beverage, and discuss a work of C.S. Lewis. This season we're reading Till We Have Faces, but today we're doing something a little different. My name is David, and I'm joined by Matt, a remarkably cheap date, Bush.
What made you think of that?
I just take what I know about you and extrapolate.
A remarkably cheap date. Yeah, because I always pay.
There you go, then.
Yeah, the dates are not remarkably cheap for me. I have very expensive dinner taste.
So maybe it should be Matt, a remarkably generous date?
Yeah, there's the right one.
There you go, ladies. Just say yes to a date with this man, and he will lay it out for you. You know, music, wine, the best of restaurants.
It was dangerous in New York. I mean, you set yourself up. I mean, you go out and there's some nice restaurants, and I like a nice restaurant.
You do. You have rich tastes. I discovered that when we went to Charlotte. Most expensive tacos I have ever eaten.
Yes. And also they took, 45 minutes to get to us, an hour?
Unacceptable.
You also learned how lazy I am. We were tired. I was feeling incredibly introverted. We had all these talk speakers, and we were in a hotel. And this place was honestly 1 block from us. You would walk out the hotel, but instead I ordered it on...
The whining when I suggested that we walk over.
I was like, I don't want to. I ordered on Grubhub, and they walked 1 block to deliver it to us. It's shameful. It really is.
Yeah.
And yet I'm not embarrassed one bit.
Well, today is a rather unusual episode, but before we... Actually, no, let's explain what it is. So, today we have launched Patreon. That was the crowds going wild. This has been coming for a while, but really pleased to announce that Patreon is now live. For those of you who haven't come across it before, it's a means of supporting podcasts and creative types that you love. So if you love us, you give us money and we give you perks in return.
This is actually, on a more serious note, I'm enjoying your humor, but a more humbling episode to do. I don't do these, I don't accept gifts very well. And that's also why I'm a remarkably generous dinner date, because even when I'm with my guy friends, it doesn't even have to be a date. I just feel obliged to pay many times. I don't know why. I just have a hard time with that. So all that's to say, we're sitting here opening ourselves up as we do this podcast, and we funded ourselves, time, financially, all that, and now asking for people to support us if they'd like. I don't do that very well.
Well, let's drink something then. So you're off alcohol, so I'm just going to continue along with my peanut butter flavored whiskey.
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of gross, but I kind of like it.
I don't know what to make of that. That's like saying it's Natty Light. It's kind of gross, but I sort of like it. Or One Direction.
Yeah,
there's something wrong with them, but I kind of like them.
Taylor Swift.
No, there's nothing wrong with
her. For the quote of the week, we'll explain a little bit more about Patreon in a moment, but at its essence, it's about you guys supporting us and us giving you gifts in return. So we thought that it would be really appropriate to read the section from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where Father Christmas appears on the scene, and he gives gifts to the Beavers, he gives gifts to Peter, to Susan, and Lucy. And then at the end he says, "Here is something for the moment for you all." And he brought out, I suppose from the big bag at his back, but nobody quite saw him do it, a large tray containing 5 cups and saucers, a bowl of lump sugar, a jug of cream, and a great big teapot, all sizzling and piping hot. Then he cried out, "Merry Christmas! Long live the true king!" and cracked his whip, and he and the reindeer and the sledge were all out of sight before anyone realized they had started. So, with that, cheers.
Cheers. So now that we've been joking a little bit here, but this is a more serious episode.
It doesn't seem
for
it.
The past, it doesn't seem it, but we are very humbled. We are very grateful for the last few years, and we love doing this. We're going to continue doing this. And for the past 100 episodes, yes, 100 episodes, we've personally covered all the costs involved in producing the podcast, the video series, and the website. And we really love working on Pints with Jack. And Lewis has made such a difference to our own lives, and we want to share it with others. And we will continue to, either way.
But at the same time, over the past couple of years, a number of folks have reached out to us and asked if they can support our ministry financially. And we're thrilled at this, that some of our listeners want to partner with us in sharing the wisdom of C.S. Lewis with the world. And up until now, there was no easy way for people to do that, to support us financially. But with our newly created Patreon account, it's incredibly easy. And as I said in the introduction, not only is it easy, but we can now send you some great thank you gifts for supporting us each month.
And I can't stress enough, any amount you give will be a blessing. And I genuinely mean this too. If you're a listener and you're like, I just can't, but you keep us in your prayers, you send us your notes. I mean, those genuinely mean a ton to us as well. I mean, they keep us going from an energy perspective when you get caught into the weeds of recording constantly. And I want to stress, as you consider giving, if you do, that David and I both believe we are called to the highest of standards when it comes to stewardship. And that means that we do not take your contributions lightly in the slightest. And so any money donated goes directly back into building up the online C.S. Lewis community and helping us produce more content that hopefully the listeners and you guys will love to consume. We're not going to pay ourselves. This isn't going to us in
we will
any
make
way.
tens of dollars.
We genuinely, it'll take some time before we even get to the point where we probably covering our costs. And then when we get beyond that, David and I, the visions that we have for this, I mean, the sky's the limit. Kid you not. I mean, we can take this so much further. So we appreciate all of and anything you guys are able to do.
And so for those of you that are unfamiliar with Patreon, the way it works is that there are different tiers of support. So if you give a certain amount of money each month, you'll get certain kickbacks, certain gifts sent to you. And those will vary depending upon which tier you opt for. So I thought we should run through the tiers and explain what you get from us for supporting the ministry.
The first one, David came up with these names, by the way. I'm going to give him full credit. They're quite clever.
So basically each tier has a name, and it's a play on words relating to some Lewis book.
So tier 1, very fitting, $2 a month, mere stickers. Not to sell the stickers short.
No, the stickers are amazing.
But then again, mere Christianity, not to sell Christianity short. So it's also very fitting. So every little bit helps. $2 is phenomenal. So for pledging that, we'll mail you a couple Pints with Jack stickers and some Pints with Jack coasters.
So that was tier 1, mere stickers. For tier 2, if you're going to give us $5 a month, and you can just think of this as buying us a cup of coffee. So for $5 a month, not only do you get the stickers and a coaster, but you'll also get access to our Pints with Jack Slack channel. And I'm really excited about the possibilities here, because for those of you that aren't familiar with Slack, it's a website where you can chat with us and also with other listeners about the chapters that we're discussing. In recent episodes, we've made some suggestions and we've said, hey, listeners, contact us if you've got any other ideas. This will be a really easy way for listeners to reach out and discuss some of the theories as we're working through the books.
I'm really excited for that as well. And I love, Dave and I are very conscious of making that at one of the lower tiers because we want people to be part of that. We don't want it to be inaccessible financially. It will take a lot of work from David and my perspective because we'll be constantly engaging with it and we'll take it seriously. We'll answer questions. We'll keep the community going. But the more people that join, the better. I mean, imagine thousands of you guys all in the Slack community in great conversation. That'd be exciting.
And so if you give this $5 a month, you not only get the stickers and the coaster, you get access to the Slack channel. And in the Slack channel, there are a number of channels. And this basically denotes the topic of that channel. So we've got a general channel where you can just talk about whatever, something related to the podcast. We have a season 1 channel, a season 2 channel, a season 3 channel, a Narnia channel for when we discuss those books, and also a Bird and Baby channel where it's just like the Eagle and Child. You just pull up a bar stool, grab a drink, either a beer or a cup of tea, and just talk about whatever.
I can't wait for that.
We'd love to get to know you.
Yes. And that one's really for you guys because David and I have the pleasure of interacting with you through email so often. We want listeners to start interacting together as well. Tier 3 is called A Pint Observed, and this is $10. So things are getting serious now. You obviously love the podcast so much that you want to support us with a gift of $10 a month. And as a thank you, not only will you get the stickers, the coaster, and the Slack channel, but we're also going to send you in the mail personally pint glass which has been laser etched with our logo. And not only that, we will raise a toast to your good health in an upcoming episode. And I have to say so myself, the logo laser etched on pint glasses is stunning.
Beautiful.
You'll be in good company. You'll be in company of Douglas Gresham, who also has one.
And the final tier is tier 4. It's called Till We Have FaceTime. And this is $20 a month. And if you're doing this, then you clearly have too much money, and we want to help you solve that problem.
And you might have too much time, too.
Yeah. So in exchange for taking $20 of your hard-earned cash each month, we're going to give you access to the Slack channel. We're going to send you all of the gifts, the stickers, the coasters, the pint glass. But not only that, we're going to jump on a video conferencing platform. Whatever works for you, FaceTime, Skype, Google Hangouts, and we'll get to meet you and say thank you. And finally, we're going to mention you by name at the end of every episode as being a top-tier supporter.
Every episode?
Every episode.
Do you think I get a little redundant?
No, we'll say thank you very much to John, Jane, and Frank for being top-tier supporters. Further up, further in.
Because I'm just so optimistic. What happens if we have like 50 of those?
Then we will get really good at saying it very, very quickly.
It'll become a funny joke, and I guess listeners can just skip forward through it if they want.
If they really want to, but I think it'll be good. I think it'll be a good test to see how tired you are as to how quickly you can read them.
We also reserve the right to change that. I'm kidding. I'm just picturing us down the road. At some point in a perfect world, this thing's going to grow, and at the rate we are, there will be so many names.
So, those are the tiers. And before we end this episode, a large part of us going on Patreon and inviting people to donate to the podcast is so that we can have someone else do the editing for our podcasts and to do a far better job than I could ever do. And this is now done by Nick. So we thought it would be a good idea to invite him onto the show and introduce you to the latest member of the Pints with Jack team.
Yes, Nick, it is so good to have you on here. I don't get the pleasure of speaking with you because David is the one that interacts much more frequently. He's the logistical guy. And so it's great to have you on.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate it. I enjoy being here. Thanks, man.
Could you just kick things off by just introducing yourself to the listeners? Because they've got to know myself and Matt over 2 years at this point. Mm-hmm. Who is Nick Chamberlain?
Okay, so Nick Chamberlain, I am the husband to my wife, Martha Chamberlain, and we have 2 kids. We have a 3-year-old daughter, Camila, and a 7-month-old son, Dominic. And so we've been married for 4 years now, and I'm from Houston, Texas, and she's from Laredo, Texas, and we met in Central Texas where we went to college at Texas State. And then I moved to San Diego, California to work for this nonprofit organization called Catholic Answers. And so I'm the radio engineer for the Catholic Answers live radio show. And we also have a podcast, Catholic Answers Focus, and I also produce the Council of Trent podcast. So that's my day job here in Santee El Cajon, San Diego, California. And so I do that from 8 to 5. And then I do my dad and husband work until like 5 till about 9 or 9:30.
The performance reviews must be grueling.
And then I go ahead and I start what I do at night. And that's my side business I've started. It's called NCC Audio. And so I'm helping produce a podcast for people, and I'm helping to launch podcasts for people. And so that's what I've been doing for about a year now. And it's been a lot of fun and a lot of work.
Well, thank you for the introduction. Now, as the newest member of the Pints with Jack team, welcome. Wow. How about you share what more specifically your role is on the podcast? What do you do? What do we give you, and what do you give us back?
Okay, so David will send me two files. He'll send me the voice file of himself and the voice file of Matt. And so then I have two files I get to work with, right?
Needless to say, you have to do much more work on Matt's audio stream. You have to make him sound better.
So I'm not going to tell everyone like how long it takes me to make it sound like as how you're listening to it. So I'm able to manipulate Matt's file and I'm able to manipulate David's file. I line them all up and I cut everything up. And so sometimes it's like a 55 or 60 minute like conversation, and then I'll make it end up, around 45 or 50 minutes, just cutting out all the wonderful things that maybe don't need to be in the podcast.
I like to think of it as we give you coal, you give us back diamonds.
Yeah. So I'm just going through and making it sound as professional and clean as possible. But I also want to make it sound natural and organic. So you're just listening to Matt and David just sitting across a table from each other and just having a normal conversation.
Rather than being several states away from each other.
Yeah.
Having a conversation on Skype.
Yeah, and so that's also what I try to do with the sound quality. I don't necessarily want it to sound like this big radio sound like producers. It's a natural room where people are talking. That's what it should sound like. It's not overhyped or anything, but it's also loud and clear for everyone to hear the content, because that's what is important for podcasting.
And you've also really helped with not only the editing and equalizing the audio quality and all of that stuff, but you also gave me a bunch of different tips on how to do the recording, mic technique, and all of this kind of stuff. And you recently spoke about that in your own podcast, didn't you?
I did. I did a 3-part series on how to start a podcast. So I go through all the equipment that is needed, from microphones, recording devices, and audio interfaces for your computer. And then I get into some editing techniques on how to edit your podcast with your digital audio workstation of choice. And then I go through how to publish your podcast to Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify, and etc. So that's another part of the NCC Audio that I'm launching as well, is just, podcast consultation. A big question I get is like, well, how do I interview people long distance? And so that's another thing I can help people with for sure, and to have the best setup. I guess just here's a little, quick tip is, a lot of times people say, I hear a lot of my mouth noises, and it's like very sensitive.
It's like somebody's eating while they're speaking.
No, that's true. So if you're looking to starting a podcast, you'll have two choices of microphone you'll come across. There's a condenser microphone and a dynamic microphone, right? So a condenser microphone is going to be very sensitive, and it's going to pick up every detail of noise or mouth sounds, right? But then the dynamic microphone, it's not as sensitive, and you have to talk louder into the microphone, and it's not going to be picking up all the very intimate details of someone's voice. So this sound that we're recording out right now is, we're in the studio of Catholic Answers, and we are using a dynamic microphone.
And that's why it sounds so wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's good for voiceover work for sure, but it depends on what kind of sound you're going for. If you want a very intimate, like NPR sound, then maybe, a condenser mic would be a good option for you.
And then you have to have a smooth jazz voice as you are talking.
Yes. And then you have to go through and eliminate all of your little lip smacks and saliva noises.
And the likes and and all of the other verbal tics that you learn to hate about yourself when you have to do the editing. So I'm really glad I don't have to do that anymore.
Oh, yeah. Another thing I have is the NCC Audio podcast. Well, I think we already talked about that. And I go through and I help explain everything. And I'm also starting to, realize my verbal tics. I say a lot. And I was like, I had no idea I said that. So, yeah, we're learning.
Yes. Yeah. I do some speaking, and people will come and sometimes tell me, how do I get into this and how do I get better at it? I always tell them, start a podcast.
Yeah.
You will learn all of your verbal tics, and you will just learn to hate them, particularly if you have to spend all of your time editing them out.
Yep.
So as you're spending the hours doing this, okay, I can either keep doing this or I can stop saying and
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's true.
Well, Nick, thank you for sharing all of this. Thank you for making me look very good And so before we sign off here, would you mind telling us how people can learn more about you and your company and where they can go to find it?
Okay, so you can go to my website, nccaudio.com, or you can also look for me on Facebook. Everything's facebook.com/nccaudio, instagram.com/nccaudio. So pretty much if you search my name, Nick Chamberlain, and NCC Audio, you will be able to find me and, the services I provide. And you just heard the again. I didn't need to say that, but I'm just filling air and just talking. So, yeah.
Well, all of the links will be in the show notes. And Nick, thank you for coming on the show.
All right. Thank you so much. See you guys later.
Listeners, as we wrap up here, we just want to take this moment to thank you guys for this journey and for everything you guys have done for the podcast. Even if you don't support through Patreon, which is totally fine, the gift of you guys continually listening to us, the gift of you sharing this with your friends, honestly, the gift of you guys sending us the messages we get constantly, multiple ones a week that are so heartfelt, encouraging. They're so kind. You guys invite us into your lives. You share your own stories and your journeys and how the podcast is helping you. We can't say thank you enough for that and for your prayers. If you do feel called to support us, we will personally thank you. But at the same time, look at this also as a blanket thank you that you guys give us the gift to do this. It's an honor. It's a privilege. We love it. We will never stop. And your support helps us do it even better. And we just want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for that.
And we also want to say join us again next week when we're going to be going further up
And further in.
Cheers.
Cheers.